This is the Sixth Man Show, an Orlando Magic podcast, with your hosts, Kevin Tucker and Jonathan Osborne, covering all things Magic basketball. By fans, for fans. Go Magic!
What's going on, Orlando Magic fans? You guys are back with the Sixth Man Show. Today is December 30th, 2024. It is New Year's Eve. Haven't talked to this man on the mic since Christmas. As always, joined by my co-host, Kevin Tucker. Kevin Tucker, how was your Christmas?
Christmas was really good. We got a couple early gifts, obviously in the form of those wild wins that we saw earlier this week, I guess, against the Heat and the Celtics. That was a lot of fun. Got those early Christmas gifts. But yeah, Christmas was great. And the holiday season just keeps on giving. In some ways, I guess, we had a couple rough games there, Thursday and Friday, but we turned it around on Sunday with yet another Christmas miracle, maybe a New Year's miracle, we'll call it. But yeah, it was good. How was your holiday?
No, holiday was great. Obviously, Christmas morning with the kiddos, and they got these little, what are they called? It's like a wiggle board that's powered. I forget exactly what they call it, but I've been riding that around the house quite a bit. I don't really fit on it, and it doesn't go as fast as it's supposed to with my weight on it. But like riding those around the house with the kids has been pretty fun, except they cracked our drywall, which now I get to spackle and paint and fix that. And then, having the family here and everything was fantastic. But I hope all of our listeners had an awesome holiday. I hope you all had a Merry Christmas. And as we get ready for, again, this is New Year's Eve. So just a couple of days left in the year. But as you're preparing to celebrate, the new year, obviously do so safely and responsibly. But yes, we do have a lot of Orlando Magic basketball to talk about, as we didn't have an episode on Thursday because of the holiday. So this is the first time for you all hearing us in about a week. So 4 games that to talk about. We're not going to probably talk about all of them at length the way that we normally would, because if you're listening to this show, you're an Orlando Magic diehard, and you're probably pretty tuned into what has happened over the course of the last couple of weeks. But yes, we'll go back and talk about the Christmas Miracle win, which was beating the Boston Celtics on Monday. We'll talk about the Thursday game versus Miami, which wasn't as awesome. The Friday game versus the Knicks, which was definitely not awesome. And then the win Sunday versus the Nets, which was pretty awesome. Right now, it's like one way or the other. It's like a great win, or it feels like it's the worst loss in the world right now for the Orlando Magic, as the injuries actually continue to pile up. But yeah, we'll talk about all of that in a moment. We do have a couple of things to get to, some housekeeping items. If you have seen the 6-man long sleeve that we released a couple of weeks ago, that is up for pre-order right now. You have today and tomorrow. You have the 30th and the 31st to pre-order your long sleeve, and then it's going to be gone forever. We're never going to bring that iteration of that design back again. Get it once or don't ever get it again. So if you want to take advantage of that, you want to get yours, again, you've got Monday and Tuesday to pre-order that. And then when that ball drops, Tuesday night going into Wednesday morning, that pre-order will close. So if you want to get yours, go over to thesixmanshow.com/shop to pre-order yours. And Monday and Tuesday, last couple of days of the year that we're running this Patreon discount. So if you ever wanted to support the show and join our Patreon community, like $5 a month gets you access to our Discord, where you can talk to like 100 other Magic fans 24/7. Anything you want to discuss or argue or, just ask questions. There's always people active in our Discord. So that's just some of the benefits that you get with our Patreon. But you can go to patreon.com/the6manshow. And at checkout, use code SIXMAS, 6, the number 6, MAS, for 15% off your first month or your first year. This is for brand new patrons only. So if you're an existing patron, that discount code does not work. And then coming up on January 17th, when the Magic take on the Boston Celtics on ESPN, we are going to be over at Stadium Club, which is a new venue that we're hosting or helping host this watch party at, which is located at the Caribe Royale Resort in Orlando, which is located at 8101 World Center Drive. Seriously, this is the coolest venue that we've ever done a watch party at. brand new, bar and grill area. Above the bar, they've got the 360, like it's a massive video screen. They've got the sports simulator bays there. Great food, great drinks. Obviously, the cold Michelob Ultras will be a-flowing that night as well. And we would just love for you all to join us. So again, that's coming up on January 17th. Tip-off on that game is at 7 o'clock, so that party will get started around 6:30. So again, mark your calendars Friday, January 17th. Join us at the Stadium Club, which is located at the Caribe Royale Orlando Resort. It's going to be a great time. Looking forward to that, Kev.
Yeah, always good. Like you said, the venue's crazy. And the Celtics are going to be looking for some revenge. So they're a little shell-shocked, I think, from what happened on Monday. So, and maybe, just maybe, we'll have a certain Paolo Banchero in that game, which will give us always a chance to win a game, even in Boston. So, yeah, definitely want to come out. Don't want to miss that. It's going to be awesome.
Speaking of Paolo Banchero, we did get an update this weekend that Paolo Banchero basically he has entered into the return to competition reconditioning phase of the torn oblique and the injury process, and now his recovery process, saying that the tear itself is healed. He's hoping to be able to get into some 5-on-5 action over the course of the next few days. Magic don't have a ton of practice time coming up, if I'm not mistaken. So most of that 5-on-5 will probably come in the form of playing against assistant coaches whenever they get the chance to do that. So, but the fact that again, he is now in that reconditioning phase, it's all about getting him through contact and sort of getting his wind and his legs back underneath him so that he can return to play. I don't know how quickly that is going to be. Sunday, January 5th, the Magic's next home game against the Utah Jazz doesn't sound like a bad date, in my opinion. I would love to see him back for that game. But the fact that he's entering into the final stages of his rehab from that injury is really encouraging, and the Magic need him back as bad as ever.
If there's one thing we know about this front office, though, it's they are not going to rush him back. So while us fans circle, that next home game a week from today, Sunday, that'd be nice, but we'll have to wait and see. I'm not holding my breath for that one. Now, there's a couple more home games, coming up after that, maybe. We have that home back-to-back. I think it's the 9th and 10th against the Timberwolves and Bucks. Maybe we'll see him then. I don't know. But regardless, yeah, we need him back as soon as possible. As much fun as this run has been, as much fun as this underdog story has been, getting Paolo back will be very nice for everybody, I think.
Now, we're entering into a stretch of the schedule where they're the games are a little bit more favorable, right? We just went, New York, Philly, Phoenix, Milwaukee, New York, OKC, Miami, Boston, Miami, New York. That's a heck of a stretch. And now we're
crazy.
We'll talk about the win Sunday versus Brooklyn, but now you're at Detroit, at Toronto, home for Utah. And then you get into a little bit of a rough stretch again there, for a couple of weeks. But you and I talked, Kevin, when Paolo Banchero went out back on, the news basically came out, what was that, Halloween? So you're 3-2 when he goes out. And we were saying if you're 500 by the time that he gets back, that's probably a win. The fact that right now you're 6 games over 500, you've gone 17-12 without Paolo Banchero, I think is better than any of us really could have hoped for.
Here's the thing. With this December stretch that you just talked about, 13 games, and when you look at the opponents, like you said, if we came into December fully healthy and the Magic went 6-7, which is what they did, I think some Magic fans would be a little frustrated, but I don't think they'd be super shocked when you look through that list. So considering the fact that we went 6-7 without Paolo the entire time, without Franz for most of it, Franz literally played in only the first 4 games, missed the last 9, without Jalen for 1.5 of those games, the fact that this team went 6-7 in that stretch against those opponents is crazy. Seriously, the craziest thing ever. And like you said, to keep them afloat, 20-14 going into 2025, Paolo on the way sometime in the next couple weeks, hopefully. This is everything we could have asked for and more. And this team is definitely primed to go on a run once we start getting our guys back.
And when you add on top of that, the fact that you lose Franz Wagner, and since losing Franz, the Magic have gone 4-5.
Right.
We thought without Franz, we may not win a game without Franz. And were able to beat Phoenix, and then Miami, Boston, the Brooklyn game. And then you could argue that the Magic, maybe they should have won that Tuesday NBA Cup knockout game against the Milwaukee Bucks. They didn't really deserve to win that last game against Miami, but you're Tyler Hero missing a fall-away jumper from winning that game as well. So you're not too far away from being 5-4, 6-3 in this stretch without Franz, which is just really remarkable. I know we spent a ton of time on the last episode talking about Jamahl Mosley and just how good of a job he's doing. And I don't mean to not give players credit, but just the way that I don't know what kind of mental voodoo or Jedi mind tricks he's playing on these guys, but you heard him talk about it Sunday night after the game that if you're playing for the Orlando Magic, if you're playing in this uniform, this is the way that we're going to play, and you're going to believe that you are enough and the guys that we're playing with are enough to win this game. That is what you are going to believe. And these guys believe it, man. We've had literally 3 out of our last 5 games have been miracle wins that you legitimately should not have won. Right. And 9 times out of 10, you lose all of those games, and yet the Magic are finding ways to win those games. And right now, I feel like we're saying, Jamahl Mosley's not getting enough credit and so on and so forth. And when you look at the sports books and you look at the odds for Coach of the Year, he still isn't getting enough credit. What I think we're going to see is when Paolo and Franz come back, if those guys are able to come back in a timely fashion and we're able to that's the thing that one of the things that I'm so excited for is when those guys get back, how good this team really can be. We saw a flash of it the first couple of games, but it feels like Franz and all of the other guys with Paolo being out have gotten to such higher levels and should be able to, in my opinion, it's stuff that we should be able to sustain to a certain degree when Paolo and everybody comes back. When we get into March and April and the Magic are still sitting there in the 3 or the 4 seed, and you're wow, Paolo Banchero missed 30 games, Franz Wagner missed 20 games, Jalen Suggs missed, we'll talk about the right wrist sprain that he has now, but if he misses a handful of games, you look at this, and if those guys have missed, 60, 70 games over the course of the 3 of them, and the Magic are still a top 3 or top 4 seed, I think at that point, it'll be sort of undeniable. And maybe we should be there already, but I just feel we can't talk enough about Jamahl Mosley. We cover the team, and maybe we don't talk enough about him and the job that he's doing. So I hope that at some point everybody else will sort of circle back around to this and realize the fantastic job that he's done all year.
Yeah, we're starting to see more and more national media folks mention him in tweets and stuff, but unfortunately, in the history of this award, it tends to go to just the top teams, right? The best team in the West or best team in the East, if they've got a great record. More often than not, Coach of the Year goes to them, which is a shame because there are a lot of really, not just recently, but over the history of the award, there's been a lot of really, really good coaching jobs. Coaches that took a team that was projected to be terrible, and while they may not have been the top seed in the East, maybe they snuck into the playoffs with a terrible roster or whatever the situation might have been. And I'm worried, especially because he coaches in Orlando, that's going to happen this year. But I also think it's kind of our duty as Magic fans, right? It's our job to get this propaganda out there, if that's what you want to call it. And if you want to start looking up who the award voters are this year and start tweeting at them, respectfully, of course, they're not gonna vote for Jamahl Mosley if you cuss them out about voting for Jamahl Mosley. Okay, so hit them with the stats, hit them with the facts, and let them decide. But I think it's time to start the Jamahl Mosley campaign. Not that it hasn't already started, but let's blow it up. Let's make it national, and let's see if we can get him Coach of the Year.
Completely agree, Kev. Let's jump into the weekly state of the Magic. This week, the Magic went 2-2 with a win over the Boston Celtics, losses to the Heat and Knicks, and then a win over the Nets on Sunday. Currently at 20 wins, 14 losses, the Magic, as we record this, are sitting at 4th in the East, 8.5 games back of Cleveland, 4.5 games back of Boston, 3 games back of New York, 2 games up on Milwaukee and Atlanta, 2.5 games up on Miami, 4 games up on Indiana, and 5 games up on Chicago and Detroit. The Magic are 25th in offensive rating on the season with an offensive rating of 109, 3rd in defensive rating with a defensive rating of 106.3, and 10th in net rating with a positive net rating of 2.6. as we prepared to record this episode, Kevin mentioned how like looking at the like defensive efficiencies around the league, it's crazy to think that the Magic are only third in defense. And like when you think about like the ceiling of this team, like their absolute like best defensive performances, I don't think there is anybody who is, marginally or significantly, better than us on that end. I would argue that I feel like the Magic might have as high of a defensive ceiling as anybody. But right now, in 34 games, like so far this way through the season, the Magic are really just clamping down when it counts in the fourth quarter. And the Magic are first in the league in obviously like defensive rating and net rating as well in the fourth quarter. But they're just like choking teams out when it comes to that fourth quarter. I put out a tweet the other day of like, when it comes to the Magic in the fourth quarter, like they're going to drag you into deep water and see how well you can swim. And you better not be bleeding because like that Orlando Magic defense is just full of sharks. And if you get to the fourth quarter and it is a close game, the Magic are proving that it doesn't even matter if it's a close game. If you look at Sunday's game against the Nets and then what was that Thursday's game, or was that Thursday's game? No, that was the previous Saturday's game versus the Miami Heat when they were down 22, I believe, going into the fourth quarter. Like they don't even necessarily need it to be a close game, especially if they're at home. The defense, they're just able to ratchet it to such a level that you just flat out can't score for 5, 6, 7 minutes at a time. And by the time you get your offense going again, like that freight train has already come through the station and you have missed your stop. And they're just so good in the fourth quarter. We would like to see them be a little bit more consistent throughout the game. But to their credit, like they're keeping games close into the fourth quarter, and then they just are able to smother you defensively and just make enough plays offensively to end up winning a lot of these games right now.
Well, yeah, you talk about the numbers. Defensive rating, 97.4 in the fourth quarter. First in the league. Second is OKC at 102.7. So you're 5 points better than the second place team. What's crazy also is the Magic have the 10th best fourth quarter offensive rating. Like, this team is top 10 in an offensive category? Like, what? Like, who'd have thought? But that leaves them with a net rating, like you said, of 16.4 in the fourth quarter. That's 6 points better than second place Dallas. But take it a step further. At home in the fourth quarter, this team has a defensive rating of 91.2. And the second best team is Cleveland, and their defensive rating at home in the fourth quarter is 102.7. That is 11 points better than the second place team. And that includes Friday's game against the Knicks, where you got absolutely destroyed in the fourth quarter. So I can't even imagine what it was before that. Overall, that gives you a home fourth quarter net rating of 21.7, with OKC second at 15.1. That's 6 points better. 21.7 net rating at home in Orlando. So yeah, that confirms what you're saying. If those Sharks just get a sniff of blood, it's GG's, right? I'll also add this. This surprised me. I didn't realize this. The Magic are third in the league right now in clutch win percentage. They are 10-5 in clutch games this year. That's third best in the league. And that is almost all without Paolo, right? Like, that's the part that's crazy. I believe certainly the Indiana game when he had 50, that would have been a clutch game. I believe I guess that Chicago game, the night he got hurt, that was a clutch game too, because that was, I remember the missed shots down the stretch leading to that loss. So outside of those two, you go 1-1 in those games. So this team, without your best player, your go-to player, is 9-4 in clutch games. That is, again, there's one word I keep using for this team this season, and that's just stupid. Like, this stuff that we're seeing is stupid. It makes no sense mathematically, logically, spiritually. I don't care. Nothing lines up, and yet this team keeps finding a way. It's just really, really something. This week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week comes late in the third quarter of Sunday's game against the Nets. A huge turn of events, a loose ball. Tristan da Silva gets it at half court, finds Cole Anthony for the wide open three. He misses, but who's there? It's the Goga Gadget arm, whatever you want to call it, of Goga Bitadze with the thrilling putback dunk that not only was it a great play, it cut the lead down to 8 and got Kia Center rocking. Again, getting this crowd fired up, getting this crowd believing that anything is possible, because at Kia Center, anything is possible. That's this week's Jam Hot Chicken Jam of the Week. which is brought to you by Jam Hot Chicken. They're bringing jams, culture, and hot chicken to the heart of Winter Park. They're an amazing hot chicken shack. They're located at 400 West New England Avenue, Suite 13 in Hannibal Square. Quite literally the best chicken in Central Florida. Definitely go give them a try. And before you do that, you can just follow them on social media at Jam Hot Chicken. Find, some pictures of them on Instagram. That'll get your stomach nice and hungry on your way to Winter Park to check them out. And again, you can also visit them at jamhotchickenfl.com to check out their menu, online ordering, and all things Jam Hot. Again, they're huge Orlando Magic fans. They love this team. They love this community. And that's why we're proud to have them sponsoring the show again this season. So definitely go check them out and let them know that the Six Man Show sent you.
This episode is also brought to you by Duval Pauly, Stantino 1995, Austin Lampe, Kason Green, Fuchsia, and Carson Tulo. Who are these folks? These are some of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons. They went to patreon.com/the Six Man Show. And Duval Pauly is our newest patron. We give a very special shout out to new patrons whenever we have them. Thank you so much to Duval Pauly, who joined at our elite tier. And I believe used that Sixmas code to get 15% off his first month. So you can now, between the end of today and the end of the calendar year, 2024, if you go to patreon.com/the Six Man Show and use code Sixmas, that's the number 6MAS, you can get 15% off your first month or your first year, but it's for brand new patrons only. And then again, like I said, we shout out all of our Hall of Fame and elite tier patrons each and every week. Give them a special shout out and a special thank you. We can't do what we do without them. So if you like what we do here and you want to help join the mission and just help grow this community and this fan base, again, you can head to patreon.com/the Six Man Show, and we have a different number of tiers, whatever works best for you. Every little bit helps. And again, just thank you all so much for helping support the show and giving us your love and your support throughout the year. And I hope you all have a happy new year. Let's get back to the episode. I find myself saying that same phrase over and over again. Like, this team does not make sense, and it sounds cliche, and I just keep repeating it, and I just can't. I don't have a way to describe what they're doing. Mathematically, it's 2 games out of our last 5 where the Magic had a 99.7% chance of losing the game at one point, in the second half, and for them to just fight back the way that they have been, and just not a great shooting team, but hitting shots when it matters, and obviously getting stops. It's when they get momentum and that Kia Center crowd gets behind them, it's really a special thing that we're seeing. And you just pointed out those home efficiencies. It's not, we're not just saying this. It's not, myth. It's actually legitimately happening. And the Kia is a really hard, difficult place to play when the Magic, they don't even have to do a lot. They just have to make a couple of plays, and then the crowd is right back into it. And 4 years ago, I don't know that I ever would have seen that as being a possibility. And it's a credit to Jamahl Mosley. It's a credit to the way the Magic are playing. But it is a credit to Magic fans. For the most part, most nights are showing up. Now we can talk about Friday night against the Knicks. That wasn't exactly fantastic by any means. But yeah, just the way that this team is playing right now and just finding ways to win is really impressive. Real quick look at the injury report. We talked about Paolo Banchero, but now with that return to competition reconditioning designation, Franz Wagner is still out with the torn oblique. Haven't had any updates on him. Mo Wagner out for the season with the torn ACL. Gary Harris returned to the lineup Friday versus the Knicks after missing, I believe it was over a month with that hamstring. And then Jalen Suggs left the game in the second quarter on Sunday with a sprained right wrist. I think it was the 4:40 mark, somewhere around there. Jamahl Mosley after the game said that tomorrow Jalen Suggs will be reevaluated and they'll go from there. There's a lot of things that I think guys can play through. When it comes to hand and wrist injuries, that's something that is really tough, because he really couldn't dribble with that hand. He really couldn't shoot with that hand. That's definitely a big concern. If it was an ankle or something like that, I would probably feel pretty optimistic that maybe we can get Jalen back pretty quickly. But maybe he'll prove me wrong. Maybe this will be something else that he bounces back from pretty quickly. He does seem to heal, pretty fast. But yeah, I think we might need to be prepared to miss Jalen at least for a game or so.
especially a guy that hits the deck so many times. Like, he's got to be able to brace his falls. And if there's something wrong with that wrist, you don't want to risk making it worse. Jonathan, admittedly, while you were going through some of that injury report, I had, as a Tampa Bay Bucks fan, had to check on Falcons Commanders, and maybe I missed it. Did you mention Anthony Black with the back spasms? That's another.
I know. I did.
Another addition.
Yeah, he was a late
add it
scratch.
to the list. Yeah, add it to the list. AB misses tonight's game against the Nets with back spasms. I don't remember, Jonathan, him missing a game due to back spasms before. Have you?
No.
Okay. So here's the problem with back. Well, there's a lot of problem with back spasms, but we have seen, at least in our time watching the Magic, you get back spasms once, they have a very good chance of coming back repeatedly over the course of your career. And so when I saw that today, that was a big yikes for me. It's just unfortunate for him. Hopefully that's not the case. I'm sure there are other guys in the league that have just had back spasms once and that's the end. I don't know. But when it comes to the Magic, that unfortunately has been a recurring injury for several guys, and I hope that's not the case for AB.
Several Orlando Magic legends, Tracy McGrady, Dwight Howard, Evan Fournier, all those guys dealt with back spasms. So, hey, I think from now on, like, maybe not a lot of people would just prefer that I didn't, but just getting in one little Evan Fournier joke per episode, it's kind of fun. Okay. We have quite a bit of Orlando Magic basketball to talk about. We're not going to spend a ton of time on games from earlier part of last week, but still important. Like, when you go back and think about like being down 15 points to Boston. Now, no Jason Tatum, but surprise, you will get no empathy from us when it comes to injury. No. So no Jaylen Brown, but down 15 points at the half. Tristan da Silva, 18 points, basically hit the game-winning three to put the Magic up with 9.9 seconds left. The 108-104 victory over the Boston Celtics, literally like a Christmas miracle, like coming off of that win over the Heat last Saturday, and then you have that win over the Boston Celtics, in which you and I were like, hey, this kind of feels like it's going to be impossible, especially after you had this miracle win over the Miami Heat. There's no way that you're going to not, let alone beat Boston, but come down from a 15-point halftime deficit. And sure enough, they do. And I'm officially at the point where I just refuse to count this Magic team out. Sure, we can feel like a game may go this way, but I think we always have to leave the door open for like some kind of magic miracle to happen.
It's so funny. A week ago, you and I got on this show, and I said, I said this is impossible, but I said it, looking for the reverse jinx. You know what I said? I said Saturday was impossible and they did it. So I'm going to say it again. Tonight's impossible. And by golly, they did the impossible again. It's just hard to believe. I know we just talked about it, but you started Trevelin Queen, his first career NBA start. That's a two-way player. And I don't mean that as disrespect to Trevelin. I mean, you started a two-way player against the reigning NBA champions and you found a way to win. Another comeback win. And it was just so much fun. And any other season, that's one of, if not the win of the year. And at this point, we're 34 games or whatever it is, and that's top 5, right? Like,
I was going to say, I think the Miami win is obviously, number one.
The Lakers win.
Tonight feels like it's up there. The Lakers win is up there for sure.
The Pacers
I would put
50 bomb.
The Pacers 50 bomb, the win against Phoenix, like the first game without Franz.
Right.
I would put that up there as well. It's kind of crazy to think that beating Boston at home, being down by 15 at the half without Paolo and without Franz, maybe top 5, it's just
exactly.
It's ridiculous the things that this team is doing. So that game was awesome. And then Thursday, what did we get out to a 14-0 lead over the Heat? They call timeout. You're up by as much as 17 in the second quarter. And then sort of the wheels just start to fall off and you were only up 11 at the half. And it was almost as disappointing as a double-digit halftime lead that I can remember, because everything that helped the Magic build that lead in the first half, especially turnovers, I think it was 22 or 23 turnovers in this game, set the season high for the Magic. Just, if you don't take care of the basketball, you don't I don't care what you do. I don't care how good your defense is, how well you're shooting. If you don't value the basketball, you don't get opportunities to score. And I do think that is reflected in the final score, 88-89, Heat over the Magic. But the Magic also just couldn't shoot worth a you-know-what in this game either. I think it was 30, what was it? No, it was less than 30% from behind the arc, but it legitimately was the 13 turnovers that killed you in this game.
It was, I'm not sure which box we were looking at. It was 5 of 29 from 3, 17% with 21 turnovers. Yeah, 14
I'm not looking
in the
at
first
our box
half.
score at all. I clicked the wrong tab.
Oh, well, there you go. That's what it is. Yeah, 21 turnovers over the course of the game, 14 in the first half for the Magic, and yeah, they shot 5 of 29 from 3, 17 freaking percent.
Wasn't it 19 straight missed threes?
That's what I was going to say. They started the game 3 for 3. So do the math. That means they finished 2 of 26 the rest of the way. Just crazy stuff. But you're right. The turnovers, I think that's why most people were frustrated about this game. At this point, any loss right now with the players you have or don't have, it's hard to get too mad or too frustrated. But when a game is just right there for the taking, like Miami I just don't think that's a good basketball team. Like, I really don't. I know they were without Jimmy Butler, whatever. They're about to be without Jimmy Butler for good. I just don't think they're a good team. I think they're fraudulent. And so the fact that they pretty much gave you every chance you could to win this game and they just couldn't do it. I think that's why, at least myself, speaking for myself, that's why I was pretty frustrated with Thursday's game that they couldn't pull it out.
Well, then you also have Alec Burks, who is a known Orlando Magic player, just killed us, especially in that second half. He and Terry Rozier both. That was another thing. Like this, even though Miami only scored 89 points, this didn't feel like this like dominant defensive performance by the Magic. It was a lot of like Bam Adebayo, just like Goga shutting him down, 2 of 10 from the floor for him. And then like Kel'el Ware, 1 of 4. Who I was like really impressed with earlier in the year, and I know that we had talked about, him being a guy that maybe the Magic would draft in this year's past draft. I'm just not really super impressed with him, but if you talk, people who think that the Miami Heat can do no wrong, obviously they probably believe that he's still going to be a future All-Star or whatever. But I mean, really like the turnovers, but like the bench scoring in this game, J.I. 0 of 1, Wendell 1 for 6. Corey Joseph was 2 of 4. Cole Anthony 0 of 4. Anthony Black 1 for 6. Like J.I. minus 12, plus minus. Corey Joseph minus 11. Every starter was at least a plus 6. Like Goga was the lowest of the starters, a plus 6. And then Tristan finished a plus 12 on the night. So yeah, the turnovers were brutal. Tristan had 4. Goga had 2. Jalen had 7, which cannot happen. Cole had 4 in 12 minutes. That was a big killer as well. And yet you still had the lead with a few seconds to go in this game. And I didn't love Trevelin being on Tyler Hero in that spot. Like Tyler Hero, he shut Tyler Hero down in the previous matchup, but for whatever reason, like it didn't really matter the way that Trevelin was defending Tyler Hero. He was just knocking down shots over him like late in that fourth quarter. I want to see Jalen Suggs on the other team's best guard in the final possession. That being said, Trevelin's defense wasn't terrible, but he gave him just enough daylight to get that shot off, and then he ends up hitting it, and it kills you. But ultimately, like you said, the most frustrating part of this game by far was the turnovers.
Yeah, and again, it was just right there for the taking. And like, why did it have to be Tyler Hero? Right? Like, I would have rather any of the other 14 dudes on that roster hit that game winner. Why did it have to be him? I can't stand him. But yeah, that's the way it goes sometimes. He hit a tough shot at, like you said, I thought Trevelin Queen's defense there was fine. Gave him a little bit of space as he kind of made that turn, but closed down really well. It was not an easy shot, but credit to Tyler Hero for making it. And then that last possession for the Magic after that shot, half a second remaining, they get Jalen in the corner. That shot goes in and out, but it wouldn't have counted anyway. I think after reviewing that, looked like he got it off late, but yeah, tough loss. Jalen took it tough as well, missing another potential game winner. I think he said something after the game like, I've had 3 of those, and saying he's frustrated he hasn't hit it, but again, probably wouldn't have counted anyway. So difficult night, and especially difficult knowing what was ahead 24 hours later with this home back-to-back against the Knicks.
Yeah, which for the most part, I really like the way that the Magic competed. I don't think that this loss really necessarily falls on any one person's shoulders, but the point where this game really flipped was the 6:23 mark in the third, where Jalen fouls Jalen Brunson, which he made the free throw for the and one, but gave Jalen his fifth foul, midway through the third quarter, so he had to sit. It was a tie game, 63-63 at that point. And then when Jalen came back in the fourth, the Knicks were up 87-70. And if you look at the box score, it's pretty evident that really the only guy that had it going offensively was Jalen Suggs. He finishes with 27 points in 26 and a half minutes, was 10 of 20 from the floor, 4 of 6 from behind the arc. Like, he comes out, like, the first minute, hits a long three. And I turned to Carmen and I said, okay, we're getting this Jalen Suggs tonight. Like, it was pretty evident early on that he had it going and was feeling it. But when he came out, when he got that fifth foul in the third quarter, that the Knicks like immediately go on a run. And by the time that Jalen came back in, like, the game had already felt like it was decided. And after the game, he was asked, and this was a poorly officiated game. Don't let anybody tell you any different.
Yeah.
The free throw discrepancy was 12 for the Magic to 34 for the New York Knicks, especially at home. That is unheard of and just unacceptable. It was really a ridiculous, like, when Josh Hart is shooting 10 free throws in a game, something is kind of up there. But yeah, I understand being frustrated with the officiating, but Jalen has to realize that at this point, the offense is non-existent without him on the floor. If he's not creating something for himself or creating something for somebody else, there's no creation almost anywhere on the roster. So he said after the game that, that's the way that he plays. That's the way that he competes on both ends of the floor. He's not going to change anything about that, which I love on one hand, but on the other hand, it's like, you have to realize you have an elevated level of importance on offense to this team right now. So yes, we need you to compete defensively, but you just can't have your hands on guys. A lot of nights when, like, maybe you're not the focal point and they're paying attention to Paolo, they're paying attention to Franz or whatever is going on, and refs are allowing you to be really physical and bump guys off their spots and, do a little bit of grabbing like he likes to do. Some nights they're going to let that fly. It was pretty evident early on in this game that they were not going to let that fly. And when you've got 4 fouls in the third quarter, you have to play ultra conservatively defensively, because you pick that one up, he's got no chance but to yank you, and then the game was just over. Like, the offense is literally at a halt. The Magic were 22 of 67 outside of Jalen Suggs on the night. Jalen shot 10 of 20 for 50%, and the Magic still shot 36.8% from the floor. Like, just absolutely atrocious offense that we're seeing right now without Jalen Suggs on the floor. Now, we'll talk about Sunday. That was a little bit different. Guys got hot, but again, like, when the Magic are playing well, they're doing it on the back of their defense. But I just wanted to have that little sidebar about Jalen, because yes, we love the way that he competes defensively, but he's just too important right now to the offense to, like, game after game. Like tonight, he was in foul trouble again. It feels like every night lately he's been in foul trouble, and we just can't have that. The offense can't survive without him.
Yeah, can't afford to have him off the floor right now. And like, we're not the only ones that think that. Like, there's no way. Like, the coaching staff and maybe even some of the players, like, they have to be in his ear saying those things. Maybe I'm wrong, but, like, I feel like if that's how we feel, then that's how they feel. Not saying we're NBA coaches, please don't mishear that, but I'm like, it's so obvious, right? It's like, we have to have him on the floor, especially as another team's making a run, like the Knicks did. As soon as he went off the floor, they went on that run. That was tough. The only other thing I'll say about, well, actually, I'll say 2 things about this game. The foul, it ended up being a technical foul on Jalen Suggs when he's driving to the rim. There's a foul call, I think it was at 3-point line. He tries to get the continuation, keeps playing, elbows Karl Anthony Towns in the face as he's going up for a shot. And they, after review, called it a technical foul. Is one of the wildest calls I have ever seen. I cannot say what you want about the whole game, the foul calls, all that kind of stuff, whatever. That call in particular right there is crazy to me. He's very clearly in a shooting motion, very clearly trying to get a continuation. Was it a little bit late?
Unnatural.
Nothing unnatural
whatsoever.
The only argument they can make, the only thing, is maybe just how late it was, right? He got the foul call at the 3-point line, tried to get continuation, just kept playing too hard, too long. If you want to make that argument, that's all you have, and it's tiny. It is a tiny argument. I think it's baseless. I think it's ridiculous. That's the first thing I have about this game. The second thing is...
Are you going to go to Josh Hart now, elbowing Jalen?
Now that's I draw the line there. It was the broadcast attempt to be sarcastic, because that was not an elbow. That they made contact. It was not an elbow, though. That was the broadcast team being sarcastic. Look, one guy inadvertently hit an elbow. That's a technical, and this isn't. If they called that a technical against Josh Hart, that would be stupid. Just like the Jalen Suggs technical was stupid.
It would, but the Jalen Suggs technical was so stupid to turn around and not call that. You're just not calling a consistent game, and that's my biggest issue. The Josh Hart, it shouldn't be a foul. But if you're going to call that a foul on Jalen, and that doesn't at least get a whistle whatsoever, I think that's where a lot of people's frustration comes in. When, sure, awful call on this end, but we should get the same awful call on our end. And when you're not, that's when you see 12 free throws to 34 in the Knicks' favor.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't do the Josh Hart thing. I think with the Jalen one, they had the only thing they could go with, and I think that may have been why they called it, was they thought it was late. They thought they blew the whistle, and he played too long and ended up with an elbow in the face. Whatever. It's fine. The other thing, I'll just got to give the Knicks a little bit of credit here. And for this is what I mean. They did what no other team has been able to do, except for maybe the Thunder, sort of. But even the Thunder game, the Magic got back into it and down the stretch. Twice now in this stretch with these injuries, they have just put their foot on the throat of the Magic, and they've just put the team away. And again, we just talked about at the top of the show, we went through this stretch against all these really good teams, and even the other losses. The Bucks game, that was a one-possession game. The Magic had the lead under a minute of that game. The Heat game, Magic had the lead under a minute of that game. You have the Heat blowing a 24-point lead in the earlier matchup. You have the Celtics losing, right? Like all these other teams. So I'll give New York some credit. That being said, I want to see the Knicks when we're fully healthy. Yeah. Unfortunately, we're not going to see it this season, in the regular season at least. Playoffs, maybe. I don't know. But I hate that they've owned us this season. But most people aren't going to talk about the asterisks that go with it, right? The people that are on the roster that are missing from the roster. That's the part that stinks. That's the part that sucks about playing a team 4 times in the span of 35 days or whatever it is. It sucks, but kind of is what it is. They've honestly owned us this season, but maybe we'll get an opportunity for some payback in the postseason.
Yeah, I just like when I see the way that they handled us, especially in this game. Like the other games, yes, have been pretty impressive the way that they've handled us, even with Franz, like in the NBA Cup like group stage. But this game again, when I look at the fact that the Magic shot the ball so poorly, Jalen coming out midway through the third, how close the game was to that point, the difference in the free throws, and they missed 10 free throws. Like imagine had they shot 30 for 34, like what this game could have looked like. I don't feel like last year when we lost in MSG in January, when they just like blew the doors off of us, we were relatively healthy and they just smothered us defensively. This does not feel like that same Knicks team. Like this is, sure, you're going to have nights where you just can't keep up with them offensively, but I don't feel like they have the same like gritty makeup of that last year's Knicks team. Like I would much rather play this year's Knicks team for whatever reason rather than last year's Knicks team. I don't know what it is about that, but I'm right there with you. I want to see these guys again when we're fully healthy. And if that happens to be in the playoffs, that happens to be in the playoffs. But the thing that I just continues to sicken me is when these guys come to town, the way that the arena is just drenched in blue and orange. And I don't know what the answer to that is. Like, there's no way that all of a sudden it's just more Knicks fans like buying stuff on the secondary marketplace. Like, it feels like people know that they're going to be able to make money on these tickets when these guys come to town, and people are selling their season tickets and their, partial season plans and all that kind of stuff. Like, I get that people want to make money. I get that guys are out and all of that kind of stuff. But man, it just makes it so unenjoyable to watch these games when the Knicks are in town and there's so many of their fans in our building.
Yeah, it's tough. I legit think part of it is that it was scheduled during the Christmas break, pretty much. I legit think there were probably people at that game that actually were from New York that came down to Central Florida for vacation, holiday, whatever, and decided to schedule it around this game. I think that's part of it. I think also there's just a lot of clowns, honestly, and it sucks because I'm not going to sit here and try to put a percentage on it, but there are legitimate people that attend Magic games and cheer for the Magic until quote unquote team comes to town. Some of those people that were wearing Knicks stuff on Friday were back in the building tonight against the Nets wearing Magic stuff. And that stuff I will never understand it.
And one of them was wearing a Nets jersey rooting for the Magic.
Watch the Cole Anthony game winner. They show a replay that shows the baseline in the background. On the right side of the hoop, there is a dude in a Brooklyn Nets jersey. When Cole Anthony's shot off the glass goes in, that ended up being the game winner, he is jumping up and down, leaping for joy. And I don't understand.
Maybe he really wants Cooper Flag.
Yeah, maybe. First off, I'm under the weather, so sorry I'm like sounding like this and breathing weird. My brain can't function. I don't understand the mindset of people like that. Like, maybe I'm just too loyal to a fault, but like how people can root for two teams, how people can wear one jersey and cheer for the other team. I don't get it. It's weird. It's gross. And going back to the whole Knicks thing, yes, it's the biggest city in the United States. The other part of it is, yes, a lot of them love to move to Florida because Florida is great. And so all of that adds up, and it's exhausting. Like, the Knicks games are exhausting. I think they've surpassed the Celtics games at this point. I mean, they've always been bad, the Knicks games, but I feel like now they're just head and shoulders above both the Celtics and the Heat games. Like, it's part of it is, I think, because the Heat are terrible again, or getting there. But yeah, it's miserable.
I feel like I've always, like, just from living here, I feel like I've always noticed that there's more people here from New York, New Jersey than there is Boston anyway. Like, there's still
Correct.
a good, like, if you go to when the Rays play the Red Sox or when the Lightning play the Bruins, like, there's always a good contingent. But to me, it's always seemed more like when you go watch the Yankees play the Rays or when the Rangers come to town. And obviously when the Knicks come to town and play the Magic. It's just a bunch of subway sewer rats, man. They just want to crawl into our building and find a little warm place to hide and root on their team. It's just gross. It really, really, really sucks. And then, like, you have people who are, complaining, I'm not even going to get into some of the stuff I saw on social media this weekend, but just like, stop selling your tickets to like premium games to the other team's fans. Like, if you're going to sell them, like, there are Facebook groups where you can find like Orlando Magic ticket exchange groups where you can make sure that your tickets are going to go to an Orlando Magic fan. Look, we're on social media. If you reach out to us and say, hey, I can't make it to this Knicks game, I want to sell these tickets and I want to make sure that they go to a Magic fan, we will always help you do that. We have half a dozen people over the course of the last couple of weeks that can attest to that.
Yep.
We will make sure that tickets get into the hands of Magic fans and, again, keep these little, sewer mutants out of our building.
Yeah, and it's like, obviously, it's one thing if you're a season ticket holder, partial season ticket holder, and you can't go to a game. Of course, very, very few people can go to all 41 games or all 20 games of your half plan or whatever it is. Obviously, no one's sitting here saying, go to every Magic game. But the idea of selling it to make a profit, that's where it gets dicey to me, right? Like, it's hard because on the one hand, I get it. They're so expensive, right? Season tickets are so expensive. I get it. If you're going to try to recoup some of your money, can you just do it for the Western Conference teams, though, right? Like, a lot of people want to see the Lakers. A lot of people want to see the Warriors. Do them for those games, I guess, if you have to. Like, that's how you justify spending that money, I guess. But to do it for the Knicks, man, that's toxic for everybody.
It's not that fun when it's the Warriors or the Lakers either. I've been in the building.
I know, but again, the Knicks for me, they're just on a different level now. And again, obviously, mostly due to the Knicks being good, which continues to emphasize that it's a bunch of front runners that come into the building. But I digress. It is what it is. But yeah, that was pretty miserable.
Yeah. You know what was less miserable was Sunday's game versus the Nets. Well, I mean, it was pretty miserable for the most part, again, until the fourth quarter. And the Magic, again, they were down by as much as, 21 in this game, and just come all the way back. And there was no Jalen Suggs. Again, we mentioned earlier that he went out with like 4.5 minutes left in the second quarter. So like we go into halftime down, and like we're texting in group chat. And we're like, this one's over, folks. Like when we get the notification that Jalen Suggs isn't coming back, like it felt like this game was going to go sideways. And it did continue to go sideways in that fourth quarter, but credit to the Magic. And really, it's a credit to Caleb Houston, Cole Anthony, and Tristan Da Silva. And, Goga Batadze, made plays as well. But for me, like, especially it felt like those three guys, like Caleb had 9 in the fourth quarter. Tristan had 13 in the fourth quarter, was 5 of 6 from the floor. And Cole only had 5 points in the fourth, but the two most important points of the game when the Magic were down by 1, and really a great out-of-bounds call, by Jamahl Mosley and the coaching staff. That Tristan Da Silva screen, like maybe could have been called for a moving screen, but I felt like there were plenty of calls in this game that really could have went either way, and there was a lot of, swallowing of the whistles. But Cole Anthony basically just gets sprung for like a wide open floater off the glass, and he knocks it down. And then with 1.3 seconds left, Cam Thomas has a look from the baseline near the left corner, a little turnaround, I believe, over Tristan Da Silva, and that went long, and the Magic win. Again, they were down by as much as, they had a 21-point lead in that game, and the Magic come all the way back to win this one. Just literally another miracle. The Nets had according to ESPN, had a 99.7% chance of winning this game. Like the Magic they're winning games that they have no business winning right now. And I don't know when the quote unquote magic is going to run out. I'm hoping that it's, not before Paolo and Franz get back. But yeah, I don't know what else there is to say about Jamahl Mosley and the spirit of this team, and just continuing to believe that no matter what is happening in a game, no matter how much we're down, no matter how much time is left, we have a chance to win this game. I think I've talked about it on the show a couple of times, but Kevin knows about this, is that I believe that there is like a general rule in basketball. Like 99 times out of 100, if your team is down by more than 10 under the 5 minutes to go mark, 99 times out of 100 times you lose. But the Magic, they were down, what was it? I believe it was 12. Yeah, the Magic were down 12 until the 3:47 mark when Kentavious Caldwell-Pope hits a layup to close the gap to 10. And then, they just continued to storm all the way back and eventually took the lead here. But like, this is the one time out of 100 where this was like the exception to the rule. And maybe it's not 99 of it, but it's like, it's 90+%. Like, it feels like it's pretty close to 99% of the time. How many games have we watched over the years where it's been like, oh, the rule is in effect, and then the rule ends up, carrying itself out? And it was awesome to see. Like, it's almost impossible to do what the Magic did in the last 4 minutes of this game. And they did it, and it was awesome. And there's not enough credit to go around for all, that everybody continues to do for this team.
I know I just got on a soapbox and talked about season ticket holders selling their tickets and stuff. I'm sorry, I'm going to get on one more soapbox. Stop leaving Magic games early.
True.
That if there is one thing we have learned over the last 8 days between the Miami game, the Boston game, the Brooklyn game, y'all gotta stop leaving these games early. I'm just saying, right? Like, there is no such thing as game over for this team. Like, they just do not quit. They do not give up. It's the spirit of Orlando, as you coined last week. And yeah, it's proven time and time again to be. Now, don't get me wrong. More times than not, it's not going to work out. Even thinking back to last week's game against OKC, right? Like, the Magic made a great run in the third quarter, despite feeling like they were totally out of the game. And OKC ended up matching that run there in the fourth quarter, and that kind of is what it is. But this team always is going to have a chance to come back. They're always going to have a chance to come back. And so I hope that all Magic fans they stop counting this team out. And I include myself in that, right? I include myself. Always got to believe in this team, believe anything's possible. And I will give credit to the fans that were there. I think it was like just under 4 minutes left, three something. Maybe it was that KCP play when he got that 3-point play and got it down to 9 points. The whole, I forget what section that would be, like 106. Is that the one behind the Magic bench? I think it is. What, 106, maybe, I don't, or whatever, maybe not 106. That's the wrong corner. Regardless.
Like 108, 107.
Okay, whatever it is, the section right behind the Magic bench, that whole section started standing. I know in part because the team was standing, but still, a lot of people, other parts of the game would just sit there and watch it on the Jumbotron. That whole section started standing with like 4 minutes to go.
106, 107.
I was right, 106, let's go. That whole section started standing. And like they could feel like, hold up, like I know we're down 10 with 3:47 to go or whatever it was, but like they could feel like, hold on, something, we're not out of this yet. And so a lot of other sections, yeah, exactly.
KCP
a lot of other
and one,
yeah, a lot of other sections started taking their lead, and so I'll give the fans credit that were there, man. It was awesome. But how we have heard, I'm talking dozens of Magic fans that left early, either the Saturday Miami game or against the Nets on Sunday, and so. Let's not do it. Let's believe in this team. Let's stick around and let's see what they can do.
I don't understand ever leaving a game early. Like unless there's an emergency, right? Like when you bought those tickets and you walked into that building, like if you had planned on like, oh, if this is a close game, I'm gonna be here. Like if you went into the game thinking that like I'm gonna be here until if this game goes into double, triple overtime or whatever, you're gonna be there. Like just you're gonna be there an extra 10 minutes. Like is beating traffic. Like traffic in Orlando sucks regardless of what time you leave. Like you're gonna get out of there a few minutes earlier to go home and watch Breaking Bad again or The Office again. Like what do you really have going on that you've got to get out of the building 10 minutes earlier? I never have ever understood leaving a game early.
Right, because you just run such a huge risk of missing something crazy like the Nets game or the Heat game. And also,
not even that. It's just like, yo, are you a fan when they're winning? Or are you a fan? Like I'm like you're still there to support them until the game's over.
Right. No, I get it. And I'll also add, like, I know Orlando sucks, like traffic sucks. Getting out of Magic games is really not that bad compared to some. It's really not. Like, go to some other venues, go to some other big shows, big sporting events around the country. Getting out of Kia Center is not that bad. Okay, you can get out of there pretty fast. You can hit I-4 super fast.
Like, I will say, like, if you're in the Geico garage and the Geico garage is packed, like, yeah, it can take you a good 10-15 minutes to get out of Geico. But if you're not parked in Geico, if you're like, I usually park like the corner of like Pine and Garland. Like if I can't get into the Geico garage, it's a 5-minute walk, and then like you're on I-4 within 5 minutes. Like,
yeah,
it's come on, you cannot convince me that traffic is just so bad that you have to leave a game early. You'll never convince me of that.
And I'll just close with this. There are going to be people in the comments that are like, "Wow, you guys, getting on fans and all that kind of stuff." Please hear when I say this. It's not because it's like, "Oh, you guys suck," but it's like this team feeds off of that energy. And fortunately, not everybody left this game, but a lot of people did. And so if more people had left this game, maybe this comeback doesn't happen because there wasn't that energy that I talked about from section 106, right? Like they've said, we're not making this up. They say this. Mosley has said it. They feed off of the energy of the home crowd. And so I'm not saying this to be like stupid and annoying. I'm saying this because like we got to take the cues from the team. The team says they lean on this. And so let's give it to them. Let's give them the home court that they deserve. Especially this team. This team is freaking amazing. So let's give them the home court they deserve, whether it's the first quarter or the fourth quarter, whether we're up 20 or down 20, and let's just see what they can do with it.
I think this team has earned a pass for the rest of the year. Like, unless they're down 30 going into the fourth, right? Like, I'll even give you, like, if they're down by more than 25, I wouldn't leave, but if you want to be lame and leave, go ahead. But like this team has kind of like earned a pass of like, we probably should hang around to see what happens.
I'm going to push back on that. They outscored the Heat by 29 on Saturday.
All right, well, so it's 30. The rule is 30.
37-8. They held them to 8 points in that fourth quarter. So I'm saying 31. 31
Perfect.
points, that's fine. Or if they're down 30 with 6 minutes to go in the fourth, fine. Well, if you really want to beat the traffic, do that. But yeah, they outscored them by 29 on Saturday. So,
well, watching this game again, like in my mind, I'm like, the rule is in effect. This game is over. He hits the and one to cut it to 9. Tristan, a couple of possessions later, hits a turnaround, cuts it to 7 with 2:25 to go. But then when he came back and hit the 3 with 1:43 to go to make it 97-93, that's when I was like, all right, it's time. Like we might actually do this. But then Wilson gets fouled, like falling out of bounds, which kind of felt like a weak call. Felt like it could have screwed the game up. They go back up by 6. Tristan hits a layup and 1, makes the free throw. It's a 3-point game. Then Caleb Houston, with 49 seconds left, hits the 3 to tie the game up, and I felt like we were winning at that point.
yeah.
And just unreal. I think it was last year, maybe 2 years ago. We were playing the Hawks. I think we were in Orlando, and Trey hit a 3 with like 2 minutes and 5 seconds left, I think, to put up the Hawks by 9. And the Magic legitimately almost came back and won that game. I think maybe that was one of the DeJounte Murray game winners, or maybe that was a Trey Young game winner. It was one of those two. But like you never think that things like that are going to happen until they happen, and it's crazy. And I wish I would have been there for that.
I've got one more thing from this game, and we've talked about him a lot lately, but I just feel like it has to be said. Like Goga, like, I mean, first off, there were stretches of this game where Goga was our offense, which is sad, right? But in that first half, which we've talked a lot about the fourth quarter and talked a lot about the second half, and with good reason, obviously want to leave a good taste in everyone's mouth. That first half was really bad.
It was brutal to watch.
Really, really bad. And again, goes back to this whole idea that this team probably didn't deserve to win this game based on the first 3 quarters. But Goga continues to impress. You and I have texted about this. There is no way that when we're fully healthy, there's anybody else starting at center anymore than Goga, right?
Like last year, you could make the argument because like Wendell and because Goga would have stretches where he was really bad.
Right.
We haven't really had many of those stretches this year, and Goga has just been so much better than Wendell all year. I can't see you going back to
on
Wendell.
both ends. By the way,
Yeah.
it's not just a one-sided thing. It's not like, oh, he gives you a lot.
We saw Wendell tonight, to his credit,
Wendell's
that
good.
we have not really seen since the first couple of games. He had 13.6 rebounds, 6 of 9, and a few of those buckets he had to really fight for.
That's right.
So
100%.
I mean, if Wendell is playing like that every night, I could maybe have more of a conversation, but we just haven't seen it consistently enough. And like we're talking about Wendell having a really good night. Well, Goga was 19 and 11 on 8 of 10 from the floor
with 5 assists, 2 steals, and a block.
Yeah, was ridiculous.
Come on, 5 assists away from a triple double for your 7-foot center, like ludicrous. Yeah, he's been so good and a huge part of this truly miraculous Magic run.
Well, I think we do need to talk about Cole Anthony as well, right? Like the guy hits the game winner. You're not winning this game with him. 10 points, 3 rebounds, 3 assists, was 3 of 11 from the floor, but was really good in the fourth quarter. Obviously, hits a couple of baskets. Obviously, the game winner. And it's this weird thing right now where I've seen this on social media where it's like, well, what do we do with Cole? Because it's like you're either getting game winning Cole Anthony or you're getting Cole Anthony who's just legitimately killing you. Right.
I'll just say really quick, Monday, Cole was amazing. The Miami game, the Boston game, amazing. Turns right around for that home back-to-back, Miami, New York, and was abysmal.
Yeah.
And then tonight, wasn't necessarily abysmal, but wasn't great until, like you said, those plays down the stretch. And we also just mentioned the turnovers tonight, he had none. No turnovers in 17 minutes, so you got to give him credit for that too.
The Magic, they didn't have a turnover in the fourth quarter at all. I think they had 2 turnovers in the third.
Wow.
Yeah, 2 turnovers in the third. They finish with 13 turnovers on the night, I believe it was. I think they had 11 in the first half. Yeah, 2 in the third, and 0 turnovers in the fourth quarter. It's crazy what this team can do when they're not giving the other team the basketball constantly.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I'm right there with Cole, like the confusion around what to do with Cole Anthony, because this team is so desperately looking for another scoring punch off the bench with Mo Wagner going down. But I just have real concerns and question marks about whether that can be Cole Anthony on a consistent basis. Somebody, I forget who was talking about it, but was saying that like Cole Anthony has had three games this year where he's like really impacted the game and like won the game. And in my mind, it's like, that's not really a super strong argument for Cole Anthony when we're 34 games into the year, where like Tristan da Silva has at least a half dozen games like that. You know, like Jalen Suggs has, 15 of those on the year, right? Like it's hard for me to make a real strong, consistent like argument for Cole Anthony to get a ton of minutes when it's like, oh, well, he's had 3 games this year that he's won. It's like, if you're counting this as one of the one, like, yeah, he hit the game-winning shot, but Cole Anthony wasn't the guy that got you back into this game. It was really Tristan da Silva and Caleb Houston that got you back into it in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
So it's just this weird thing where, like, my heart loves Cole Anthony so much and I want him to be successful, but when you're seeing him on the floor in the games where he's struggling, where he's just, like, dribbling it off of his foot and just, like, coughing the ball up to the other team, or he's trying to make it a pass and it's going directly to the other team, or, he's taking shots and they're just not going in, and, where he's not really impactful, and you could argue like he hurts you sometimes more than he's helping you. It's a weird thing, because it's like you don't want to give up on the guy because he's been here for so long and he loves being here and he's such a great guy for like the chemistry of the team and the locker room, and that on any given night he is capable of having games like the Miami game. But it's like for the last year, we're just not getting those consistently enough. Like you get one of those every couple of weeks out of Cole Anthony, when in reality, like we need you to do that every other night. Like asking you to do that every night probably isn't realistic, but like we genuinely do need that from him like every other night at this point. A guy like Mo Wagner was giving you that like 3 out of every 4 nights.
Yep.
So, I mean, the biggest hole on this team for me, throw the injuries aside, because those guys are going to come back at some point. And then when your starting 5 is Jalen Suggs, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Franz Wagner, Paolo Banchero, Goga Batadze, and then on the bench you have guys like Anthony Black, Jonathan Isaac, Wendell Carter, Tristan da Silva. For me, it's like, who's going to be that 5th guy in the bench unit? And I don't feel super confident in saying it's Gary Harris or it's Cole Anthony. It doesn't feel like it's Jet Howard. Trevelin's looked good in moments. He looked really bad tonight in the few minutes that he played. Yep. I don't think it's Trevelin Queen. Like, he's contributed pretty significantly in a couple of these games, but I don't think he can do it consistently. I don't think it's Caleb Houston. So it's like, does this team need to look externally and try to make a move? We saw Brooklyn, obviously, like they started this in the offseason by unloading Mikal Bridges. Now they're trading, Dorian Finney-Smith, and I think they're also like getting picks back in the deal for D'Angelo Russell. And there's rumors that they're expected to like buy out D'Angelo Russell. So at what point are they hitting like the hard reset button? And if you can get a guy like Cam Johnson and you can slide him in next to Anthony Black, Tristan da Silva, Wendell, and J.I. in that second unit, and he can be that guy who every other night can give you like, that's a guy that's capable of giving you 20 off the bench, right? I understand both sides of the argument, but I do feel like the argument for keeping Cole Anthony has more to do with how much we all love him. And this really sucks to say it doesn't have a ton to do with what he's giving you on the floor on a consistent basis, at least. The potential is there, and that's why people are like, oh, don't trade Cole Anthony because he has the ability to give you a game like that Miami game. But it's just, I don't feel like it's consistent enough. And that truly pains me to say.
Yeah. I think the hard part with Cole is not just because of the culture thing, but it's because we've all seen him be capable of that, right? Like earlier in his career, Even the beginning of last season, don't forget, like the first 4-6 weeks, whatever it was of last season, he was outrageous. He was so good. So we've seen what he can do. And so the fact that he's not doing that consistently, I think, is what's hard. I think there are a lot of people that are saying he's just got to play through this. He'll be okay on the other side. He'll find his way eventually. But how long is that leash? I don't know. It's like you said, 34 games into this season. Didn't play well the last 2/3 of last season. So we're at pretty much a calendar year now of Cole being wildly inconsistent and having more games where, if you ask me, he's hurt the team than helped the team. But at the same time, he's one of the guys that's the heart and soul of this team and been here a long time, relatively speaking. And it would really hurt to see him dealt. I'm not going to sit here and make a prediction if that's going to happen this season, but all I know is we have 5 weeks to find out. Trade deadline is now 5 weeks away, which is hard to believe, February 6th. And so we'll find out if this front office wants to make a deal of some kind. But I agree that, especially with Mo Wagner gone for the season, we've got to find bench scoring. It has to happen, or we're not gonna make it in the playoffs. Right? That was such a big part of our success last season. Losing Mo Wagner, it's a huge hole. We've got to find bench scoring, and if that's Cole, amazing. If he's able to turn on the Jets and make that happen, if we need to find it somewhere else, then so be it.
Ideally, that is what would happen. We would have like this reemergence of Cole Anthony, and he would be this, 15 points per game on, 44% from the floor and 36% from behind the arc, and be able to give you 5 rebounds and 4 assists a game. Like if we had that, then we don't have to have this conversation. Like I don't think he's this like glaring hole like defensively that we have to find an upgrade at that position. Like to me, he competes enough, and you have the other like pieces around him to where like the bench unit can still be really good defensively with Cole Anthony in the lineup. I don't think that's the problem. But yeah, like, and a lot of the people that, sort of argue to keep Cole Anthony, it's like, well, he just needs more opportunity, right? I don't know where he's going to get the opportunity on this team. Like we invested the number 6 overall pick in Anthony Black a year ago. We invested what was called the 16th pick now, 5 years ago at this point. Like at some point, like, yeah, it was 4. Yeah. Was it? He's in his 5th year. So the draft was 4 years ago. It was 2020.
Yeah.
Like November, December of 2020. That was the weird like COVID year. But I just don't think he's going to be able to, like, we can't afford to give him the opportunities to play himself out of this rut. Like if it's more shot attempts, like, he's not shooting the ball particularly well. If it's more time on the ball, like he's been turning the ball over at a, not great clip as well. So I just don't know what the answer is. Like ideally he would wake up tomorrow and just be the Cole Anthony that we need. And like, we love him. Like we want that, but I'm not confident that we're going to get to that point again with him.
Yep.
And that really sucks to say. All right, let's go ahead and talk about the week ahead. We've been depressing ourselves here for the last several minutes. This week, we are going to start on Wednesday, so no game Monday, no game Tuesday. We will be in Detroit on Wednesday against the Pistons. Then the team will fly to Detroit and play the Raptors on Friday. And then they come back home and they take on the Utah Jazz on Sunday. The Jazz, that'll be their second night of a back-to-back. They play in Miami on Saturday. They tip off at 8 o'clock. So what is that? 22 and a half hours later, they'll tip off in Orlando against the Magic. So Utah, as everyone knows, they have not been great to start the year. They are 7-23, right at the bottom of the league. So yeah, I would like to see the Magic pull that one out. I'm going to say, because I do think we're going to be without Jalen probably the next couple of games. Detroit's been playing better basketball as of late. Cade Cunningham's been playing really well. Scotty Barnes had a league high 8 turnovers tonight for the Toronto Raptors. I think we go 2-1 this week. I think we lose to Detroit. I think we beat Toronto when we beat Utah.
I was about to say the same thing. Yeah, you talk about Utah having 7 wins. The Raptors also have 7 wins. They're 7-25. Okay, so
they're both stinky.
Right. The two teams that we play at the end of the week have a combined 14 wins. Okay, both stinky, but Magic, of course, without our key guys, like you said, likely without Jalen for the next couple, maybe it's the next week. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe more. Who knows? Maybe Paolo comes back a week from now. Who knows? Yeah, I'll because if Jalen wasn't hurt, I'd say 3-0. But Jalen hurt, I don't think there's any way he plays Wednesday. I'll agree. I'll say 2-1 with the same results.
And we don't know if we're going to have Anthony Black.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
You don't have Jalen. We're gonna be seeing a lot of everybody. You're gonna see Traveling Queen. You're gonna see Corey Joseph. You're gonna see Cole Anthony. You're gonna see Jet Howard. The only guy I don't think we'll see is Mac McClung.
Right.
Yeah. Who is gonna start? That's gonna be pretty interesting. Feels like you have to start one of Anthony Black, Cole Anthony, or Corey Joseph. Like you need more ball handling in that first unit.
I think AB starts, but if he's not available,
that's what I'm saying. Like we just don't know if he's going to be available because of the back spasms.
Right. If he's not available, I'm probably starting Corey Joseph. Like heck, like what else are you going to do?
You start Cole. I mean, it just depends. Like those guys are going to be. If Anthony Black is not playing, like you've got to. You can't really play those guys together much, Corey Joseph and Cole Anthony. Like I thought tonight in that first half, we waited way too long to bring Corey Joseph in when Jalen was out of the game. But yeah, 2-1 would be great. I could see us going 1-2. I don't see us going 0-3. I don't think that's possible. Nope. Certainly hope not. I mean, the Magic have lost 3 in a row, only twice this year, obviously during the 5-game losing streak when Paolo went out, and then Milwaukee, New York City, and then New York City, good grief, New York and Oklahoma City.
Yeah.
But these 3 teams are not those 3 teams. So, yeah. Both times we've played Oklahoma City have been right in the middle of nice little fat losing streaks for us this year.
And also, I know I'm skipping ahead, but right after the Utah game, you go to MSG, play the second time you've played them on a back-to-back. So,
wild.
Joy.
All right. Well, I think that's going to wrap this one up here. Finish this one out. Don't forget, go to the6manshow.com/shop. Pre-order your 6-man long sleeve. You've got today, the 30th, and tomorrow, the 31st, before those are gone forever. Head over to patreon.com/the6manshow. Code number 6 MAS, so code 6MISS. Get 15% off your first month or your first year for brand new patrons only. And don't forget about our watch party that's coming up on January 17th when the Magic play the Celtics. We'll be at the Stadium Club at the Caribe Royale Orlando. That's located at 8101 World Center Drive in Orlando. So be sure to come out to that. That is going to be a ton of fun. Kevin, anything else that I'm missing before we close this one out? Nope. That is going to do it for this one. For Kevin Tucker, this has been Jonathan Osborne. You all have been listening to The 6-Man Show, and we will catch you guys next time. See ya.
Thanks for listening to The 6th Man Show. Be sure to subscribe on iTunes and Spotify to get new episodes downloaded directly to your phone. If you enjoyed the show, please take a minute to give us a 5-star rating and a review. It helps out the show a lot. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at 6th Man Show. We'll catch you guys next time. Go Magic!